Hello, I'm Nicole Coulter, an adjunct instructor at Three Rivers Community College. When I first started teaching, this is the picture of what a classroom looked like to me. And then for the last few months, this was a picture of what my classroom looked like. When I envisioned students studying, this is the picture I had in my mind. But now I'm starting to question if this might be a more interesting way, a more engaging way, a more accessible way for me to reach my students. And so when I started to think about podcasting and creating a podcast myself for my to align with my course, this is a picture that I had, and that looks intimidating. But what I found is that the same tool that I used to run my class in the pandemic, and the same tool that I'm using to record this video right now is the same tool that I could use to create a podcast. And it's the same tool that you can too. So this lesson is called Podcasting for Professors, and I'm going to show you how this is done. In a previous lesson, I explained 3 ways professors can use podcasts in their courses. The first was to find existing podcasts that align with or enrich your content. The second is to create your own episodes. And the third is to encourage your students to create their own. So this lesson will show you the basics on how you and or your students can create podcast episodes. We're going to record podcast audio using Zoom and Audacity. We're going to do some basic editing of that audio in Audacity. We're going to download the audio out of Audacity as a WAV or an MP3. We're going to discuss a little bit about podcast hosting options and then resources for transcripts. So most of you have probably noticed that it's really easy to record a Zoom meeting. But when you record a Zoom meeting, it automatically records a separate audio file in addition to your video file. Here I'm going to show you how easy it is to have Zoom record an audio file for each speaker. So if you've downloaded the Zoom Desktop Client app, you can access this feature by clicking on your profile pic in the top right corner and then clicking Settings. On the settings screen, choose Recording from the left-hand side, and all you have to do is check the box that says Record a separate audio file for each participant who speaks. So these instructions are if you had Zoom record your audio onto your computer. And so it automatically creates a folder. And so this is Audacity. You'd have to find instructions on how to download Audacity, but it's free, it's open source. There's lots of support documents and a support network community. So this is Audacity, and I'm going to now open, well, actually I'm going to import the audio that I did previously for a Zoom. So I'm going to show you here how I have all my different Zoom recordings. I am going into one right here where you see the Zoom, this is the Zoom meeting video that you'd normally MP4 file. And here is an audio folder. So it automatically recorded in the audio my recording and Zane, who I was speaking to, on separate tracks. So first I'm going to import mine, and then I'm going to go back in and import Zane. And you see how they're stacked on top of each other. So as you can see, most of the time that he's talking, I'm not talking. And most of the time that I'm talking, he's not talking. But sometimes it looks like we might be talking over each other, in which case, if I listen to this, it might sound, and we can listen to it. Yep. And this podcast is for you, and enthusiastically, because you did it last. So do you see how that didn't sound good? Because it had me talking mostly, but then he said something. So I could actually just go in here and like, you can just mess around with different things, but this would silence out what he was saying while I was talking. So there's a lot of editing that does go into if you are going to have two people. And so I'm not going to address that in this podcast or in this episode or this lesson, but I will wind up, let's just closing these out and going back into just Audacity. And when you open it, it comes up with this how to help. So like you could access the manual, the forum. But I'm going to now record straight into Audacity. So in this case, you'll see that as I'm talking, it records. If I stop talking, you see a long pause. If I go, you'd see that those kind of look the same, the size and the way it looks. And if I go really loud, it gets bigger. If I go really soft, it goes smaller. And so we'll talk a little bit about how to edit this kind of audio. So the first thing I'm going to do is hit stop. Now I have this actual wave file I can look across, and I know because I get used to what an looks like. That's an right there. Okay, so if I wanted to get rid of that one I just click here, use my mouse to click, and then I can drag it across. Once that's highlighted, I just hit delete. The is gone. You'd see that those kind of look the same. And then I can now get rid of this but do you see how this one has a little bit of this? I'm going to kind of zoom in, use this to zoom in. So right here, but it doesn't, it's connected. So here's where it gets a little more complicated, and it's not going to necessarily be exact, but I'm going to go like this. I'm going to press the letter Z and then the letter C. And what it's going to do is going to play from before that so I can hear if it sounds bad before I hit delete. A long pause. If I go. So it didn't sound too bad. So I will go ahead and hit delete. So that is just the basic editing. If I needed to cut out all of this space because I just paused really long, instead of saying, I just I try and remind myself to just slow down and take long pauses if I need to. So here I'm going to delete this long pause. I could have done the C and everything again because now I would want to maybe play it. You'd see that those kind of might seem too fast, so I could always do Control Z to undo it. And I could go back and say, maybe I only want that much cut and do the Z, letter Z, as in zebra, and then C as in Charles. Pause. If I go, you'd see that those kind of. Okay, so I'm going to delete that long pause. So now let's say I have this audio done and I'm happy with it. I am going to show you next how to select it all. You can click on this left side here. That's the easiest way. You just click, if I click all the way over here in the middle, if I click on this area here, you can see a number of controls there. But the one I'm going to do is just click in the white space and it selects the whole thing. And then I'm going to run some effects because I think you heard me where I did this louder thing over here. So watch, if I zoom out, you can kind of see that sometimes it's really loud, other times it was soft. And so there's an effect called compressor. This is just go into effects, hit compressor. This is what I've been told to keep it at. You can play around because it allows you to preview it. But if you just look at these settings, this is what I recommend that I've been using. And I just click OK then. So you can move these. As I say, I can go, but we'll stick with 2 to 1. or 2 to 1.1 is, there we go. And I'm going to hit OK. Watch what happens to the WAV files. Did you notice how it got just a little bit smaller, some of them? So I hit Control Z, and then this, you could use the shortcut keys, Control Z, or I could redo it again. So I want to compress it. And then the next effect I'll do is normalize. Again, these are the settings I've been told to use. They seem to work. I don't fully understand all of this yet. I'm still learning too, but watch again what happens when I apply this. It got even tighter. So what this does is it makes the variation in your voice. It's the reason why I sound, when I do a podcast, I sound much more even tone and relaxing, is because it takes out that variation, the extremes of my voice. And if I wanted to save this project, I do save project. It's in my principles of management. I'm going to make this podcasting for professors. I did, as I said, I did a lesson on this already. That's actually a podcast episode that talks about the 3 ways. So podcasting professors, we'll call it 2. All right, so that's as far as we are right now. So saying this recording was done and I wanted to now send it out to my students. I would do file, export as. I might save it as an MP3 because that's a smaller file. If I was loading it up on Google Drive or putting it on my a website, or maybe even trying to put it, I haven't tried yet to put it in Blackboard, but I'm sure it could. So there, you would probably want to do an MP3. Today, I'm going to save it right now as a WAV file. And you just, I'll put it on my desktop. I hit save. You don't need to really select anything here, so just click OK. And now that should be on my desktop. So after you have your podcast episode download as either MP3 or WAV, and as I said, I downloaded it as WAV because I use SoundCloud right now to put out my episodes. I'm going to go to a hosting. It does cost money to have your podcast hosted. And so the free option, the easy option is SoundCloud, and it does max out a certain number of minutes, but I haven't hit that yet. So here are all my recordings that I've done so far. And that's the Podcasting for Professors version 1. And so what I would just do is go down here and it says upload more. And see, I'm at 45% used. I choose a file to upload and I go to my desktop. I do have a lot of things on my desktop. I called it Podcasting for Professors 2. Okay, so that was the number 1. Here's the number 2. And this is it. This is how easy it is. So it's bringing in the WAV file right here, right now. I usually select for my stuff learning as the genre. I put a description in, I make it public, I upload an image that goes with it, and I click save. So I'm not going to go through doing that because this was just a test file and I don't want to use any of my space, but this is an easy way to share your episodes with others. Again, you can upload them into a Google Drive and then share the link is another way. And I won't get into all the paid ways that you can do it. So the next thing I want to talk about is how to have a transcript of your podcast. So otter.ai is one recommended source. And you can see that the pricing it does have Otter for Education. I haven't tried that yet, but just even the basic is free and it just has some limited time they'll do transcription for. So it is artificial intelligence transcription, but I hear it's pretty good. I have not used it yet. I'm going to try it for the first time for this video. And another one is Descript. And Descript is really, really cool. If you look over what it can do, basically, it can also do a transcript and it uses AI. It does have free and there is the ability for you to edit the text and remove the ums and things you don't want that way. Well, I haven't talked to anybody who is using that yet. This is kind of a newer thing. So I am looking to explore it, but that is there's two different resources, descript.com and otter.ai are great sources for creating transcriptions because obviously if someone has a hearing problem or a challenge, we don't want them to be excluded from this. So it's a way that you could create um, the transcript for it. So I want to ask you, now can you see yourself trying out a podcast lessons? Or can you see yourself offering a podcast creation assignment option to your students? I hope so. I am collecting resources to share with people who want to do podcasting. So, this is the URL where you can find that. And I have some resources for kids. I have the lessons I've done here. There's a Gimlet Podcast Academy link there too. And then also a link to the podcasting workshop, which is where I learned everything I know and where I will be um, helping other learners, a new cohort, learn what I've already learned. And so I can continue to develop. If you decide you want to do this, or if you know of other resources that you find in exploring, then please send them my way. You can email me at nicolecoulter@trcc.comnet.edu. And if you have questions, I'd be happy to see if I could answer those, anything about this lesson or how I'm using podcasting. I would be happy to answer your questions. So, my hope in putting together these two podcasting for professor lessons is that you will look at this picture and realize that you have a tremendous opportunity to reach your students in a way that they are looking to be connected to. This is their connection tool, and they have gaps in their schedule, whether they're working out, driving in the car, um, or just taking a walk, doing dishes, cooking dinner, all of these times that they have an opportunity to be squeezing in the learning that and being able to listen to things over and over. And I would just like you to consider how you might reach them or how you might turn them into creators to reach others.